You're listening to the Keep It Real podcast with Zach Phelan, where we talk everything real estate, real business, and real life. My name is Zach Phelan, and I'm a real estate investor, realtor, entrepreneur, and family man. This podcast is brought to you by Home Scout. Home Scout shows you every home listed on the market in real time, meaning if a home you're looking at goes under contract with another buyer, you will see it in real time. You can track homes that have sold, save favorite homes, get notified when a home hits the market in a neighborhood you're watching, and so much more. The best thing about Home Scout is your information is 100% secure. The only people who can see your phone number and email is yours truly, Zach Phelan, and my lender, Jenna Groff. Most people don't know this, but other apps and platforms sell your information to at least 3 realtors and 7 lenders. That's 10 phone calls and multiple emails from 10 different people. Keep your information safe in our hands. We promise not to abuse it. Download the Home Scout app now. The link is below in the show notes, or email me and I will send you a direct link. If prompted for a VIP code, use my phone number 928-853-0683. Go download the Home Scout app now and start searching for that new home today.
Podcast number 16 with my good buddy Mike Adams here. We're going to get into it. I love what he is doing and where he has taken his business. And he's in the self-help personal transformation genre, which you guys know me and Samantha are huge on. We started the Tony Robbins stuff. I was into Tony Robbins way back in college. And who was your guy? Wayne Dyer. Loved him, and we met and we started clicking on all that early on in our relationship. And then we went to the Tony Robbins UPW, Unleash the Power Within event, walked across some coals, walked across some fire. That was wild. And then we really couldn't separate, me and Samantha. But Mike Adams, thanks for getting on the show with me. Let's just start off, I guess, by telling the audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Pleasure to be here. Thank you, Zach. I know Zach and Sam. We met through realty. In a place a couple years ago, and we're searching for a home. Found these 2 lovely faces and kind of connected with them. And hey, we have kids around the same age. So I'm a father of 2. We live in Flagstaff. I'm originally from the Hopi Reservation, born and raised. And me and my wife, we take care of our 2 little ones, and I've been running a business for the past 2 years. Yeah. Watching my 2 daughters, and that has been a blessing. I mean, not too many people can say they can, care for their kids like full time, and then, actually have the income to support, your living style. So I'm super blessed to be here. I'm going to talk about personal transformation today in the self-help industry, and talk about some good stuff. We're going to dive into some things called NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. We're going to jump into how you get from point A to point B and the things all along that space that can affect you actually getting there. Yeah. So I'm really excited to be here today, Zach, and let's get started.
Yeah, you got 2 beautiful baby girls. And I see we catch them at the park every once in a while. Thorpe Park is real close to us. We've been there, and then downtown, and buying your books and all that kind of fun stuff. But so what got you into the self-help genre?
So I remember in college, we go to college with the idea that we're going to do something in a particular field, and we have the interest, right? Mm-hmm. So when I started college, I remember my mom, she always be saying to me, she's like, Mike, you're going to be a doctor someday. You're going to be a doctor. And, I heard it so many times, and, you're going to be my doctor. And so I knew I was going to go to college. We connected in this earlier, me and Zach, but we both played collegiate football. Yeah. And so I wanted to go to school that I could play football in. And, the obvious route was to go into sciences. I like the sciences. And I was like, okay. My mom told me I'd be a doctor, and maybe I can make her proud. She means a lot to me. And, I'll follow this route and becoming a doctor. Let me try it out. So get into it and think take my first science courses was kinesiology, it was really good stuff. And then we get into the lab sciences, which, organic chemistry. And I'm sitting there scratching my head saying, do I really want to spend 4 years in this space? I mean, it's the labs, it's all the work that you put in, and let me reconsider. Well, part of that, going pre-doctoral on the pre-doctoral track was intro to psychology. And
the hook.
Yeah, that was the hook. I got that class, and it was fascinating. I mean, learning about people, learning about why you do the things you do. Learning about, just reinforcement, all these different concepts. That I wondered about. Personally, I came from a family that it went through some challenges, in our life, and my uncles who I spent a lot of time with growing up. They were addicted to alcoholism, and they had their own personal challenges. But I saw the dysfunction that it created in the family dynamics, and I wanted to do something about it, but I just didn't know how. And so this was like my first cue in to say, okay, this is like an area that I can explore. Fast forward a couple of years, I graduated my bachelor's in psychology, came here to Flagstaff and pursued my master's in school counseling because I just fell in love with youth and saying like, okay, if we're gonna move into the future, the youth have to be
let me shape.
be focused on. And so jumped into school counseling. Said when I finished my degree, I was offered a position at Flagstaff High School. And just post internship, there wasn't too many people being offered, careers, right after. And I remember my looking down, and they were going to lay out the salary, and I was like, something like maybe 42. And for me, that was a lot. But at the same time, I was working at juvenile detention while doing my master's, and we were earning like 38. And that was without even a bachelor's degree. And I was like, holy, is this what I want to invest? I mean, is this worth it? I mean, like, this is how I want to support my family. And, I just kind of thought about it, and it raised my ambitions a little. I raised them up, and I said, you know what? I have to pursue something bigger. So I jumped into a PhD program to be a counseling psychologist. And I went 2 years into that program, full steam. And you have to understand, I didn't take no breaks.
Straight through.
Straight from high school, 4 years of football and, school. Right after that, 2 years of the master's program, and then 2 years of, PhD work. And I finally reached a point where it came down to writing that final essay, and there was this feeling, right? Sometimes in life we have those moments where there's the feeling inside, and then there's the things that you think you should be doing or things you should be focusing on. And those two weren't connected. Those two were separated. And I forced, for a long time, I'd keep going with the way that I think I should have lived my life. And, with school, you have your family all supporting you because they just see the goodness in getting a career and continuing your education. And so they're, keep encouraging you. So in this moment where I know inside I don't want to keep going, but outside I'm listening to the pressures of everyone, feeding me this message. And, that's keeping me going for so long. I finally get to this point where I said, I have to jump into this group, which is the group that says ABD in the PhD field. It's all but dissertation. And I fell into that group, and I said, you know what? I need to get some real world experience of actually counseling and working with people if I'm ever gonna have enough desire and interest to finish this out. And so I dropped out in 2 years. Big decision in my life, and it was one of the toughest decisions because for me, I'm not a quitter, and that's what I associated this event with, was quitting. And for me, it wasn't a transition; it was quitting, and it was tough.
Yeah.
But eventually, got back in it, and started doing counseling with contract work out in the schools on the Navajo Reservation, Hopi Reservation, and thousands of stories that I've heard from kids, and working with them. Up to the degree that I was professionally equipped with, right? So I had gone through all these years of schooling to learn how to work with kids and how to get them to an area of wellness, right? There was all this struggle and conflict, challenge that they were experiencing in their lives. How do I get them to that point where they feel they can handle things on their own?
Mm-hmm.
Finally got to that point, and I was doing the best with the resources that I had available at the time and working with these kids. I finally came across a kid, one particular kid. And, this kid dressed all in black, had these, shirts that I remember just having. It was like a big T and an S, but it was like drawn with like blood coming down, and, just very dark. You can automatically get what kind of space that kid was in just by looking at them physically. And working at the schools, you walk down the hallway and you would see these kids sitting around and head down, and just the whole physiology of their body told you something was up. Eventually this one particular young lady got referred to me, and at the time, when I first got in there, the demand was a lot. I mean, the demand for my services was a lot, and I get constant referrals from the teachers, and I'm trying to work with, all these kids, navigating my schedule, and, I just became focused on, like, how do I help these kids? Got to help these kids. And, I got the one particular student. She came into my office, and, she sat down, arms crossed, legs thrown back, head down, and it's like, why do I have to be here? This is the one place I don't want to be. You can't help me. You have nothing to say that will change anything. You don't know what I've been through. So, my skills in getting her some rapport with the kid, and built a relationship, and eventually she was able to start divulging some things that she was going through. And, depression, years of suicidal ideation, and, just these experiences in her life that really challenged her up to this point, and you begin to understand the whole person and to see, like, okay, wow, this child's gone through a lot, but I know that there's more that they can become, right? And so it was taking this child and then accepting them where they are, and then working with them and having them go through an essence of cultivating what they had in their mind, right? About shifting their thoughts about how they view different experiences in their life. As they begin to do that, I would see the change, slow, gradual change. And I eventually got good enough to where it could take me about 7-8 sessions where I can take a kid struggling with 7, different depressive issues, suicidal ideation, just tough, challenging situations where they felt they had no power. And I'd be able to, lead them to 7-8 sessions and then eventually get them out the door to where they can operate on their own. Ooh. And when I got to that point, the girl, she walked out of my office, and she, there was a big smile on her face. She didn't have to come back. She realized her own power and was able to practice, what she was learning. And, at that time, I had spent so much energy on these kids, and, the job of, working as an administrator in a school, that's like, it becomes your life. And my first child, arrived. My wife was there, and she wanted me to be more a part of the family. I wanted to be more there, but I was just drawn in by these kids, and I wasn't taking care of myself. I was completely involved in helping kids, and I put myself aside, which I think a lot of educators do, a lot of people do, because their heart's so big. But then where do our boundaries get drawn for our own personal health? Right? And so I eventually in my job, in the education field, we reach a point which is, a lot of educators have felt this burnout.
Yeah.
Burnout. And for me, that's the feeling I was feeling. I remember pulling up to the school one day, pull up in the parking lot, drive my car up, turn off the ignition, turn off the radio, and I just sit there. The buses come pulling up, dropping off the kids, bus after bus after bus, seeing kid after kid after kid, and I just sit there and it's probably a good 25 minutes. I have my key in my hand, and I'm just considering like, what would happen if I didn't show up today, if I didn't go in today, and all those thoughts are crossing my mind of again, the inside of me was calling at something else. Mm-hmm. What I was expected to do was in another direction, mm-hmm. and I again forced it. And so I came to the point that sitting in the car that day, like, you know what? I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back to the school because, I'm going to listen to that whisper that I've been denying, and I'm going to, I'm going to listen to that and see what it holds in store. Like I left a very comfortable, $75,000 a year position. To jump into absolutely nothing, mm-hmm. an idea. And, I ended the year, I went into talking to our superintendent and let him know, and he did everything to try to wrangle me back in. But I said, it's just not my path. It's mm-hmm. just not the way that I want to influence kids, and I want to influence other people. So as he, became to understand where I stood, he's like, okay, I support you. So we went back, and I got out of the system, tried to handle all the kids that I've been working with, and I returned back to school for a youth summit that was going on that year. So maybe a couple months later, I wasn't a worker anymore, but I came back to be a part of this youth summit, and lo and behold, I see the young lady running up, and mm-hmm. of course, no black. She's actually dressed up for the day. She has a nice shirt on, and she has a nice blouse, and she's just dressed up, I was like, what? This is a total different person. I'm so, mm-hmm. Just be able to connect with someone when you've seen them at their low and to see them where they mm-hmm. are. Big hug, and, I love seeing that with her. And I said, how you doing? She's like, I'm good. I'm playing basketball. You should come watch me. I'm on the team. And, this girl just loved basketball. And, I was always encouraging her. And, eventually she broke out of her old system to actually play ball again. And I was like, oh, I'm so good. I'll definitely go see you. And, she was talking with me or just connecting for a little bit. Left off on that note. And a couple months passed. I stayed in contact with her, just saw her around the community here and there. February rolled around. And I remember one of the ladies who worked at the school ran into me in the community, and they said, did you hear? And I was like, no. I said, what are you talking about? She said, did you hear so-and-so passed? They completed suicide. And for me, man, that really rocked my world, because I worked with the family, worked with the mom, worked with the girl herself, saw her transformation, and to know that several months later, she took her own life at about 16 years of age. Life not even lived, right? Mm-hmm. And as she crossed my mind, I couldn't help but wonder, what if I had stayed? After I beat myself up with a stick for a couple of days, asking myself that question, I eventually said, that's what breaks my heart. So if that's what breaks my heart, what am I going to do about it? Mm-hmm. Right. Instead of being a victim to the situation, how can I be at cause for changing that situation? And I mean, talking with hundreds of kids over the years, this is constantly, suicidal ideation at even a young age in elementary, junior high, kids are experiencing that. And so it's not a very conducive environment for producing and kids that are flourishing. I said, okay, well, what can I do about that? I connected with the mom, and she thanked me for all the things that I've done with her daughter, and it still broke my heart, but it still got me to think, how does one change despite the circumstances that they have gone through? how does one become somebody new or transform despite their current situation and all the things that they're in or have ever been in? Right, that was the question that I started asking myself. And I said, you know what, if it took me, at the end of, my working at the school, the demand was so high, I couldn't see all these students, and I had to basically weed them in through a level of severity. And I just realized that change has to come quickly, and I know that change can come quickly, or this is my idea that change could come quickly. And so I started researching other people who in the self-help field who were getting change that quick. And I came across Tony Robbins. I came across other people who were getting transformations with people that I said, wow. I just remember watching a Tony Robbins video of him helping this guy who had a stuttering issue. Yeah. And
how did he do that?
The guy, right, all throughout his life, had come to this point where it was affecting his marriage, his confidence, his ability to be a man in his profession. And I mean, it was his ability to speak was constrained by that stuttering issue. And Tony Robbins goes in the video, and within less than 8 minutes, I mean, he has got the guy speaking clearly without a stutter. And they show a post video, and he's actually on stage talking to thousands of people. And that was one of the videos. But I said, okay, this is possible. And I just had to see it once that it was possible. That reaffirmed my thought in the back of my mind. Now, what does this guy know that I don't know? And does he know something that I could use to not only transform myself, but transform other people? So I picked up his book, I think it was The Giant Within, and started reading it, and came across, his principles of, understanding not only the transformation process or success, but understanding neurologically what's going on inside your brain, understanding your body, how it's all connected. And he started talking about something like neuroassociative conditioning. So, okay, what is this? Now we can utilize the internet, Google it, what is that? Doing some research, find out that, another word for it is NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. He had just had this trade dispute with NLP, so he had to kind of coin his own term. And so I said, okay, NLP is what it is, and what is this stuff? 2017, I left my job. At the end of my job, I contacted my wife, Marissa, and I said, I have this idea for this training, and it's on NLP. She's like, what is that?
What's NLP?
Try to explain it to her over the phone, and she's like, I don't know what that is. I said, but can it help you, with your work, working with people? And I was like, yeah, it can totally help me. And she's like, okay, well, I don't see no reason why, but yeah, go ahead and invest in it. And that's like one of my first times that I put money down on the table to say I am going to invest in myself. Right. I went through college debt free through the scholarship. I went through my master's and my PhD debt free through scholarship. And I never had to invest in my own self, my own money towards my education until this moment. And it was a lot for me. It was like $1,500, $2,000, to go into this course. And I said, Marissa, it's going to take us driving to Los Angeles, being there, renting a house for 7 days. And it's just going to be an intensive, me going through this process of learning to be an NLP practitioner. And she's like, yeah, just go ahead and do it. And so with that, I said, okay, let's do this. I jumped right in, and I was sitting in the room, 700 miles away from Flagstaff, and said, okay, how are we going to make this work? I have some money invested on the line. I know that this is my stuff that I can bring back, because my heart has always been with my community, and those people in my life that I've connected with. And so for anything that I invest in myself, I want to just be the voice that it flows through, right? That message that goes through, to help. So I remember sitting there, and we're all sitting in this space. We have gone through our training, and it's amazing. And I'm like, holy cow! Like, I know how to help people. I know how to do all these different things to get people results. I know how to get myself results. Like, oh, okay, let's dive into this. I'm sitting there, and on day 6, right? It's a 7-day training. Day 6, they come around, and like any good company will do, they provide their own training, but they also provide the next steps.
Next level up.
Level up. And the lady comes around, and she's kind of explaining, like, what's the next level. And for me, I've always been a person who figured it out on his own. There's a lady that I follow. Her name is Marie Folio, but she has this term that says everything is figure-outable. And, for me, that's always lived within me. You just figure it out. And we were sitting there, and she comes around and she says, okay, we have this coaching package. It's being a part of an inner circle. And it's a mastermind / coaching package, year-long. And these are all the benefits that you'll get, It's like $72,000, $82,000 value that you're getting from this, But for you guys going through this, we want to offer you a special price, and they pop out with their price, $15,000. I remember getting that paper that day, and instantly I was like, that's crazy,
I just paid $2,000 to be here.
That's ridiculous, I'm not gonna do that. And I have been working with this young lady, the whole time. You kind of work in groups and work in partners here and there, and she was one who I was working with at the time. And I was sitting right next to her, and I looked over her, and she got her paper, right? And she's like, the girl, 23 years old at the time. She's books out her paper, pulls out her wallet, whips out that credit card, and starts writing her information down. I was like, and for me, that was a huge. That was divine intervention right there, stepping in. And she was sitting there, and I looked over. I was like, holy cow, are you gonna sign up? And she's like, oh my goodness, yes. Like, for all the value you're getting in this, this is amazing. Like, I've been researching for different coaching programs, and this is like the best by far. And she's like, so, oh yeah, I'm definitely signing up. And I'm like thinking, like, 23 years old, and here I am, I think I'm in my 30s at that point, and I'm like, what is this, and that taught me instantly, that moment, about perspective, right? Perspective, how you look at something. The way that you look at something can determine your results. Yeah. By far. And as I'm, looking at her, and she's just, she signs up. They all give her a round of applause. They put a little lanyard around her neck that says she's part of the inner circle. I'm like, what? But I left that day with this thought that could not get out of my head. I was like, should I do it? Could I do it? What if I did it? It's a huge opportunity, but what if right? That was, and any time that we're facing those moments where something is presented in front of us that asks us to grow beyond the level of now, this was that situation for me. And I stood there, and I, stand there, didn't get much sleep that night, just constantly going over it. Come back the next day, fill out my form, and I said, is there a way that you can work with me on some payment plans? They say yes. And I wrote my name, gave my credit card information, signed, and I said, $15,000 I'm committed to within this year of that coaching experience. holy moly, what did I get myself into? Oh my goodness, that moment was not only defining for me, but it was it meant a big step, in my level of growth, right? And it takes that faith in yourself, that belief in yourself. It requires you putting things on the line and figuring things out. Like, right, I had to move right away that entire year to make sure I could cover every month. And, I had to get moving. Like, there's no way better than to do it and then say, okay, now I'm going to figure out everything else on the way. Like, that's the key to, successful entrepreneurship. Most people will say, I have an idea and I'm ready, but I'm going to aim. Now's not the right time. Aim. Never fire, right? Entrepreneurship, successful entrepreneurship nowadays, you can follow this by countless numbers of successful entrepreneurs. It's ready, fire, aim, adjust, fire, aim, adjust, fire, aim, adjust, fire, aim, adjust, right? It's that process of jumping in and figuring out the lessons along the way. And so I'm sitting right next to the girl, and she's like, oh my goodness, we did it together. That's so awesome, congratulations. And the person I was sitting through, I always mention this in my stories, but her name is Catherine Zenkina, and she has this online business. It's about money manifestation that she teaches women, and it's in 2017 she maybe made about, I think maybe she hit her first 6 figures in her business as an online company at age 23, and this 2018 she her business called Manifestation Babe, but in 2018 I think she probably hit $500,000. 2019 she surpassed her goals of 1 million plus. Wow. And I'm sitting right next to her, and learning about this and following her track, keeping in contact with her, and I'm like, it is so possible. Holy moly, it is 100% possible, right? And she, not only her, but my coach, I signed up that year, but they transformed my lens of how I saw education, right? And one of the things that just recently learned is Forbes estimates that the self-education industry at year 2025 will be a $1 billion per day industry. Per day. Current estimations, right, is about $129 billion business last year. And right, because it's replacing, when we understand the system, there's the traditional ways of learning, which is for most people going through 4 years in college. They are walking out with massive amounts of debt. They are walking out with no guarantees in jobs because they're accumulated mostly generalized knowledge, and they're being taught by people who are not necessarily practitioners of that particular knowledge field, right? Whereas today's, with the advent of, or the availability of internet's right on our phone, and connection to people right on our phone, I mean, people have actually said, you know what, I know how to take great pictures, and because I know how to take great pictures, I'm going to teach this to people. And that teaching to people says, hey, I'm known for taking great pictures. I can teach this to you. Did you know that? Oh my goodness, can you teach me? Sure. Here's my little course of $29. This person creates that one course one time and sells it
forever
in perpetuity, right? And so the information age is shifting with your own, the traditional knowledge. I like to think about it like, Blockbuster, Netflix, right? Blockbuster at one point was the huge gargantuan business, renting out DVDs. But at one time, their system no longer worked. It didn't keep up with the current ways of how people were taking in their media, right? Netflix saw the vision of, okay, everybody's going to be consuming media online. How do we put this into a business. Boom, shift.
Mm-hmm.
Blockbuster out of business.
Gone.
Netflix. We see the same thing right now with hotels and Airbnb, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see Hilton, an example, $99 billion business, has been operating for about 99 years. Airbnb, within 3-4 years span, $32 billion company, right? And so we have to see that there's shifts that are constantly happening that we need to keep up with. And for me, the whole shift to self-education context is like, okay, I learned this stuff. Not only have I researched, I've developed some expertise. Now it's just time to get out there and teach it, which has been an incredible process. But man, that huge long story right there leads me up to this moment of saying, hey, I put some things together to not only transform myself but transform for my family, right? If we can see poverty, which I grew up in my household, probably my mom raising me, my brother, my sister, making less than $30,000 a year. Times our water got shut off, our electricity got shut off. Just challenging times that I just knew that was the way of life. And eventually, when I look at it, is my grandmother grew up with the best means, doing the best that she could with the realities that she had and the resources that she had in front of her. She had a baton, I like to think of it like this. She had a baton of poverty. That's kind of what she knew, she understood. She passed that baton on to my mom, and my mom did the best that she could with her resources to make the best for, us as we grew up. And then I was handed that baton of poverty. Yet now I've expanded my resources. Now it's about shifting a new baton that I'm going to soon hand off to my daughters. Right? And it's that break in that cycle for me to know that, wow, this is possible. Any single person now today, there's no more better opportunity than today to actually make shifts happen in yourself. And for me, NLP has been the way of how do you do that. So good stuff.
Good stuff. I mean, Sammy's in the back with her mind blown, and so am I. You hit so many things that I could talk about, but I want to let you keep talking because this is what we're here for. But it sounds like there's many, many shifts, with two big ones, where you were listening to that inner voice in you, and then going into the NLP and committing to the 2,000 and then the 15,000 and the year of training and the year of developing and changing yourself. I mean, you grew probably in that year more than you've ever grown in your whole entire life. And now it sounds like now you are aligned with that inner whisper. And that's where you're at now with your next wave warrior. Is that right?
Yep.
Well, tell us a little bit about that then.
Yeah, so Next Wave Warrior is a personal transformation company. That's all I'm interested in. I can go on for days talking about this topic. Just because it's the essence of changing anything in your life, right? Neurologically, like, this is crazy. Neurologically, we have thoughts. Thoughts lead to emotions. And what happens in the brain is the neurological system. There's neurons in our brains, and we've heard that old phrase of neurons that fire together, wire together, right? So if neurons are what connect thoughts and how you think, when you have a thought of, I can't do this, and that is reinforced constantly, right? You've created this freeway of a strong, bridge of that thought. So anytime that something comes in your world that's challenging, boom, automatically your brain has learned how to connect that thought and create, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I'm not able to do that, right? And it leaves an emotion in our body. We say that emotions are the end result of past experiences. And so emotions become the language of the body. Thoughts became the language of the brain. And we get into this cycle which is, most of us know it as comfort zone, but the comfort zone is actually what exists inside your brain neurologically, to say that if you're thinking in a particular way, you're feeling in a particular way, we know that when you think something, you elicit chemicals in your brain. Well, these chemicals we can get addicted to. And so we pretty much can get addicted to our cycle of comfort. And we create this feedback loop inside our brains, which just keeps us stuck in our same ways. And I mean, once I learned about this, I was like, oh my goodness, that's so profound. And I had to share this. But for me, it helped me understand that, okay, when you think a new thought, it took a new neural connection. And the practice of continuing that thought in your mind will create a new neural network, right? A new highway. And we know that this field of neuroplasticity, which says that your brain is constantly forming to your thoughts. And so as soon as you begin to strengthen a new thought of, I will do this, I'm going to do this, it's already been done, right? Once you start strengthening that pathway, neuroplasticity says that, when you start using something, we have to lose something, right? It's that pruning process that has to happen to support new connections. And so that old way of thinking dies off, and now you have this new way of thinking. And that's, in essence, neurologically, that's the internal biological transformation that's happening.
Yeah.
And, you spoke about listening to that inner voice. In NLP, we have the distinguishing of the two different parts of us, which is our conscious mind and our subconscious mind, right? Conscious mind basically is like the thinking voice, the voice you hear inside your head, critically analyzing things, assessing things, making decisions. It's just the voice that we know that's part of us. There's another part that we don't know too much about ourselves, which is subconscious. And subconscious goes into all the things that you don't think about, but that affect you, right? For me sitting here, I'm not aware of the elastic in my socks around my ankle. I'm not aware of the feeling of my wallet on my thigh in my pocket. I'm not aware of my blinking. I'm not aware of my breathing, right? There's all these things that my body is doing for me, pulling in sensations that I am not aware of. But that's what subconsciously you are processing at every second. It's in a book called Flow, and then the researchers break this down, but they share that consciously we can process about 0.006% of information coming into us. That's crazy. Subconsciously we process 99.994% subconsciously. There's tons of research to support this, but we know that every single one of us has a picture-perfect memory. Our ability to recall that is what's the issue. But your subconscious is taking down every second tons of information, and we're only able to act upon not even a percentage of that consciously. And so for many of us, we avoid that voice, that whisper that's inside us, and that is your subconscious speaking. It feels, for me, sometimes it feels like that gut feeling, and that's what we tend to call it. But that gut feeling is just that part of you, your subconscious, who knows all this information and what you've said and didn't say and your whole history. It's always leading you towards your best good, because it's connected to so much more than you can consciously be aware of. Yet we try to make everything about our conscious mind, and Western education is all about emphasizing the conscious mind. It's all about being critical, about analyzing, about understand, right? Eastern way of philosophy or seeing things is about going into the quiet, going into understanding that voice, and just setting your conscious mind apart, your ego apart, and then focusing on what you can learn from the silence, that kind of stuff. But it's pretty mind blowing once you get into it. But I've definitely enjoyed teaching this stuff, and that's what I teach. So Next Wave Warrior is my company, And for me, I've launched an event called New Breath, New Life. And it's a 2 to 3 day personal transformation event. I've held 3 of them so far.
Nice.
And my biggest one yet has been 63 people.
Woo.
And when I say you get going sometimes, how you start off is not always what you imagine, right?
Yeah.
And, I think we tend to overestimate the success early on, but sometimes we underestimate, if we keep going, the huge amount of opportunities and results, that are at the end.
That'll open up for you.
Yeah. And so my first, launch of this, 3 people.
With your mom.
2 paying customers. One was my mom. Thank you, Mom. My mom has always been my backbone to support, and so great. I was like, Mom, I'm doing this. You can gain lots of value. You're coming. Yeah, but I mean, that's how it started off, was just that, and to be able to go through it and to try it out, and it's just like, wow, this is crazy. And my wife was fortunately a part of my my second event, and she got to see. I mean, I remember I was sitting talking to someone, that she was sitting right behind me talking to another person, and I heard her say, "Oh my goodness, it's like I finally got to understand why he did the things that he did, why he invested all this money to do all that," because she finally saw like the end result. These people who walked away just having this intense shift inside themselves. Yeah. And for them, we're so grateful, and we're just talking about it, and that for me, that meant a lot. I was like, oh, that's so good, right? To get your partner on walking side by side together, and then looking to see how you can transform. So currently, those are my ambitions, is to do many more events, because that's kind of what I absolutely love. Of course, you can hear from this interview talking. Yeah. But also inspiring, right? Giving new information to people so that they have the ability to shift and speak to that part of them that they may be denying listening to.
Well, I mean, you hit so many things there, but I love you're getting after it, which produces results immediately. I feel like there was a lot of fluff in the self-help industry for a long time, and I've been in it long enough, or followed it and done the studies and the training and videos. But you're about practicality and making that change really quickly. There's not a whole lot of people doing that. And aligning your wife, get to see, like, oh, this is it. That's huge. It's huge for people to do that. So who wants to go to this event? Always bring your significant other. Samantha and I have been to the Tony Robbins event. We just did the Brendan Bouchard event last year, and now we're going to your event. I mean, you're getting me and her as a customer, that's for darn sure. And I'm getting early on, and I'm getting a part of the inner coaching circle early on before you go super huge. But yeah, that is just phenomenal. So kind of the structure. So you're doing a 2-day event. You just did one with the business. That was your third event, which I think is really smart of you, because you're going to get into the word now is coaching, but you're going to be coaching these executives through NLP for 2 days. And you're going to take, get the Gore people here in town. Grab Gore and take their top, 50 people and take them through your course. And, that'll really launch you off. But, I kind of forgot where I was going with that, but the structure of your event, how do you structure your event to make the immediate changes? So when people walk out 2 days later, they're like, whoa, I've changed. Now I have these tools in my toolbox to continue making this change in life.
Yeah, and in NLP, we have a presupposition, which is just like presupposing something. But it's something that works for us. And it says people are doing the best they can with the resources they have available to them. Right? And so that means that if I'm to think about it like a tool belt, for some people, they have a tool belt with many tools as they approach a challenge, a obstacle, something that they is beyond them, right? and they have a way to utilize different tools to get through it. Some people have a very minimal tool belt. When they, I see this a lot in high school with kids, working through anger systems, working through, all they know is how to deal with something, to get upset and to throw a tantrum, or, their tool belt is limited. And so for me, understanding that, I go into the event knowing that I'm going to provide tools. Most, this is what I learned from motivational events. Motivation is good in the moment. Oh,
yeah,
man,
it
feels
great.
good. It livens you up. You get this aliveness. Then you walk out the door, and what happens? You walk back into your same daily patterns. And pretty soon, neurologically, right, you go back to that routine of thought, emotion, that feedback loop, and you stay in that pattern, right? You can recommend the event all day, but, if you've actually got results, that means you started doing something different. You applied it. And so, we go through some very powerful things on day one. Day one is about awakening. That's what I call it, awakening. It's about waking yourself up to how you really work. And so I'm about teaching you. Because when I can teach you how you work, the what becomes no longer an issue. It's just like, okay, you taught me how.
Now I get it.
Now I get it. Now there's no way that I can't do it, because I'm not just motivating you and inspiring you. I'm getting to a point where, like, okay, this is how you do it. And so NLP, we know that for most of us who are going to attend this event, we have goals. There's ambitions inside of that want to be more, do more. Like, that's my audience. You want to do something new in your life, come figure out the tools to help you get that result. And for most of us, we're all about results, right? We invest in something for a result. We invest in products, different things for a result. And so with the event, when you have a goal, a desire, an ambition, which many of us do, bucket lists. And if you're here and you've walked around with this bucket list goal ambition for years on end, which many of us have done.
Yes.
It never becomes fulfilled, right? And you live with that regret, and it feels awful. And so there's something that happens, inside of what we teach is consciously. That's your conscious desire, that goal, ambition, that part of you who wants to have this thing in your life, that result. There's the second part of you, and that's the subconscious part of you that carries your values, your identity, your capabilities, your beliefs. Now, what we found from researching different topics on subconscious is, we become so programmed in our habits and our ways of doing things that subconsciously, for most of us, we're just on autopilot. Yeah. We are just simply going through the motions. For the working individual, it's like work to, get out of work early, and you're hustling and bustling, working through navigating papers, getting things done, and you're rushing to be home. And then when you're home, you're rushing to get dinner done. You're done, you're rushing to hang out with the kids, or you're rushing to watch that game or that, Netflix show. And then you run to get to bed, and then you get up in the morning and doing it all over again, right? And at some point, you have to stop and realize, what is that routine? What's going on? So this is about teaching you subconsciously how that affects your, desires. Absolutely. And so when we say that you have a desire right here and you're trying to get there and it's taking a long time, the reason why you're not getting there, alignment. We have to get alignment. And see, underneath in the subconscious realm, it's all about emotions. It's all about, energy. Right, because if we just look at belief alone, which is like the third level down in terms of depth in the subconscious, just belief alone, there's so much in that. Like, I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I can't, I'm never going to be able to do that. All these limiting beliefs that keep you from that goal. And so, NLP is about understanding that and how to, it's crazy to me about how to break beliefs within a minute, within 5 minutes, like beliefs that you held on for
your
years,
whole life, yeah.
And to be able to just replace or remove a limiting belief is within, doing a certain technique within 5-10 minutes. NLP is really about neurology, right? How we take in information through the 5 senses, neurology, sight, sound, hearing, taste, smell, and we create a image of that. Linguistic means we take in that information, we have to make some sense of it. We have to give it meaning. So linguistic is we use our language to put a certain concept to it, or how we form that in our minds. Then we know that elicits a state. I can right now ask you to think of a time when you were with Sebastian and Sam, and it was a very memorable memory, and you probably already popped up one in your head right now, and I saw that smile come up because you shifted states. You went right into it. And state affects behavior. Behavior affects results. And so when we can teach people about how to, just teaching people about themselves, they get new information to really change things within their life and know how to change. And so day 2 is transformation day. And we actually go through a transformational experience at the end of the event. But throughout the day, we're working through some of these things that keep us stuck. Emotions are one of those things. Traumatic things happened in the past. How long we hold on to guilt, anger, fear, sadness. Those stuff. Even though we don't want to acknowledge them, they are there, and they are impacting your ability for alignment. And once you hit alignment, it's like being in flow. It's like being in the zone. Yeah. It's like that's when your manifestation powers just ignite, and you're just attracting opportunity after opportunity. One cool thing about this is that the 2 paying organizations that came to me, I didn't do no active marketing or anything.
This came to you.
It came to me. And this is another level that I teach about, but this is like, spiritual realm, which some people aren't ready to jump into quite yet. But, there's things that happen beyond our awareness. Right? Yes. You can only consciously see not even 1%. And there's things that are happening, behind the scenes so much. And when we can understand, like, dang, like, that's crazy. Just getting into the vibration of being attuned with yourself, of peace, joy, love, and staying in those, like, things just happen, and it's pretty crazy, which I know both of you experienced it, whether you know it or not. But that's kind of what the event looks like.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to go. But once again, you hit so many things. But I want to take it back to when you were talking about beliefs and make sure people kind of hear this. A belief can be instilled in you at a very young age. So I'm 32 years old, and I have a belief in me. And I've changed these before. I've done this in a couple events. But imagine that you have this belief, whether it's anything. I'm fat. I can't keep fat off my body, whatever. And within 5 minutes, you can shatter this belief that's been within me for 32 years in 5 to 10 minutes. You can shatter it and then start to rewire a new belief and replace that belief. That alone will make a drastic change in your life.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a big component of the compound effect, that book, making those changes. And to go into this 2-day event knowing that I'm going to get rid of a bunch of beliefs that have been holding me back, and to start to get realigned. Because Samantha and I, you're right, we've both been aligned. We've both been taken off, and life's been great, and we've been happy. And then something happens, right? And that's just the part of it. And it's continuous education and working on ourselves and all that kind of fun stuff. And just so people understand that when I'm going to this 2-day event, I'm going in there to really make a drastic change within me that's going to affect my life for the rest of my life. We've come a long way since our first Tony Robbins event, years and years ago, right out of college, right? We both went to college, kind of not as far into college as you did. And then we invest in ourselves. And it made a huge difference for, you know, the people that follow us and all that kind of stuff. They're like, we see it within you. So God, I can't wait to go to your event. When's the next one?
We actually haven't had the scheduling down yet, just due to other, I professional speak.
Yeah.
So I have speaking engagements lined up. But the next event, I mean, you just jump on the website, which is still a work in progress, at nextwavewarrior.com, and you'll be able to see a little itinerary for upcoming events.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, one thing that I teach, I think we've all been at this point, but you know, I was at a home show one time and I saw this, you know, this cool blender, and it was a Vitamix. I was like, oh man, you can make that and that and that. I was like, that's so awesome, right? You know, spend a couple $100 and bought one of those machines, and that I got the machine with all the insight of, you know, what I was gonna do with it, and after a while, I used it once, twice, went back into my normal pattern. That thing sat there, day after day after day after day after day. It's sat there, right? And you know, I was asked the question one time. I said, if you were to buy a blender, whose responsibility is it to get value from that blender? I was like, yeah, that's me. If you were to buy a car, whose responsibility is to get value from that car?
Yeah.
Mine.
Yep.
If you were to go to a training, whose responsibility is to get value from that training? Mine. And right, it's about shifting. You know, that's what we're teaching here, about shifting. Instead of being at a victim state, being at effect, and the effect of your situations and your circumstances around you. Many times people go to trainings and are like, oh, I didn't like it. You know, I didn't learn this or that, or you know, that they didn't do this or they didn't teach that. And right, it's about bringing 100% responsibility back to yourself.
Absolutely.
And when you can do that, that's being at a state of being at cause. And so when we talk about that, you know, leaving the event, you're responsible for utilizing the tools in your life. You know, we say that common sense is not always common, and you know, but there's the thing is, it's not always common practice. Right, you know, and so you got to develop that part about yourself. Is if you know that you are pretty much a auto-repeat living being that programs things into themselves, know that you, just like a computer, you can get reprogrammed, and that's a conscious process that can take place, and you know, it leads you down a whole new road. So that I love that. I just love seeing it, and I love hearing the testimonials from after event, and you know, just you know, hearing what you know, people have thought in different ways. It's so cool. That melts my heart every time I hear, you know, these, you know, I remember having this like probably 62-year-old lady, I mean, come in, and she's sitting in the event, and she's, you know, listening to, you know, everything I'm teaching, and she stopped me and she said, you know what, I had tons of pain in my body. That pain, that just aching pain, and it's just with me every single day. And you know, I didn't know what to. I mean, I just tried all these pills, and just nothing helps. It's just so aggravating. And you know, this person was known as being a very negative Nancy person in the workspace, and you know, she's telling me this, and you know, that's what people were told me after it, you know. But you know, she's telling me, and she said, you know, I just had this whole thing, and my husband always tells me, it's all in your head, it's all in your head. And then I just wanted to, you know, slap him, you know, because, you know, that can't be just it. And you know, go through one of my slides and the particular topic talking about, you know, how energy can release, and, you know, how it's all connected with the perception of pain in your body, and, you know, and giving different examples of different doctors and people's experiences. And that moment for her was so life-defining for her. She said, I finally realized that maybe it's all in my head. Right? And she realized, you know, it took her to being at that event to understand just the power of what she was allowing to occupy her mind, and how the thoughts were impacting the emotions, and how the emotions were, you know, manifesting other things in her body. and pain being one of the biggest things. But after she was able to go through one of our techniques, which is releasing some of this stuff, like she was like, she came back the next day. She's like, I actually, had different thoughts this morning. She went outside and she, sent out a prayer in the morning, and she's like, I'm sitting here today for one of the first days of my life, and I don't know how long, sitting here pain-free.
Wow.
And she's like, I was like, oh my goodness, that's
Yeah.
I'm sure there's many more cool stories to come, but that was when I was like, oh my goodness, that's so amazing. Thank you.
That is phenomenal.
And, I mean, it's if anything, there's this one particular study that I love to always harp on. Was they took, a researcher was interested in studying maids, right? Maids who clean, they scrub the walls, scrub the toilets, vacuum, and there's all this, work with their bodies. And they wanted to see if perception could change the results in their body. So they get, pre-assessment. They, took two groups, two different hotels, so nobody would talk to each other. One was the control group. One was the group who would get the treatment. And they took the two groups, and they brought a researcher to group one who would get their treatment. And he basically said, I want to share something with you ladies, and men. I'm sure there can be men in there. I want to share something with you about your work. Your work, requires going up through the steps multiple times. Your work requires scrubbing the toilet, scrubbing the, washing the sink, and vacuuming. We calculated and were able to estimate that on average you are burning this much calories, and by doing this you're actually strengthening your core in this, and you are actually. He just went through all this information of how their work was providing physical health to them. And so these ladies, after 1 month, not changing their diet, not changing their exercise habits at all, just staying the same. After 1 month, they found that group who received the treatment, on average, lost a total of 2 to 5 pounds. Mm-hmm. And that is that basically says placebo. I mean, one thing that changed simply was just new information. Yeah. New information shifted the belief. And so, one of the things that, I like to teach is when we can assign more meaning to the things that we do in life, we will always get more value from those things. And right, so these people, going through their day, now it was different. Now it was, I can feel that
I'm
burn.
working out.
Yeah, I'm working out. It was a whole new meaning for their work. And just that alone shifted to affect their physiology of their body to lose weight. I mean, that just information alone. And so, what you're doing, adding new information to people and value to people's world, like that's simply life transforming, whether you know it or not.
Yeah. Well, that's the plan. And we're working on it. It's going good so far, but it's not as big as you're doing. But you're going to go really huge. I know that. So we know that success leaves clues. And I always, well, not always, but I like to ask a lot of my guests about their morning and night rituals. And you got here this morning. I said, you want a coffee and water? You said, nope, I already did my morning ritual. So tie us in a little bit on, the success leaves clues and what your morning and night rituals are.
Sure. I remember Tony Robbins talking about this, and he was saying, if somebody who's become successful took them 20 years of learning all these different things, and if they could pack it into just a 3-day event, and you save yourself 20 years to learn what they've learned and put it into practice. Yeah. Think of how much more ahead you would have been.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the whole thing about a seminar, right?
Yeah.
That's taking all my years of what I've been getting to understand and all my research, all the time invested in it, packing it into 2 days and saying, wow, here it is for you to take with you and save yourself all that time if you apply this. So, hearing different people's morning routines is what I've adopted. So I have 2 young daughters, and they both, the older one sleeps through the night, and the other one, the younger one, Lakeland, she sometimes wakes up at sometimes I don't know yet, but she hasn't developed a full night's routine of sleeping, and so sometimes it's like 4 a.m, sometimes it's 1 or 2, and so I'm usually the one that gets up to make bottle and get her back to sleep, and so sometimes that's interrupted by that. But when I started doing my morning routines, I said, okay, if I can get a good night's rest and wake up at a good time. I'm an early riser. For me, that's 4:30. Thank you to my daughter for kind of establishing that for me. She's 1 year old, and she helped in this process. But 4:30 is about my wake up time.
Yep.
And first thing I do is, if I don't have to attend to her, is go right into the kitchen, grab a 32-ounce cup, and it's water first thing into my system, whether it's lemon water or just water. But for me, that's a flushing. It's a flushing system of all the things I've consumed the previous day, with my blood level being at an acidic level or an alkaline level, and I want to get more alkaline level. And so that's just health wise, energy wise for me. Then right after that, it's 30 minutes to 1 hour meditation.
30 minutes to an hour?
I've
Good for you.
I mastered it to be able to do that. I mean, trust me, I'm come from like, the having knees that I was challenged with, at some point in my life, to not even being able to sit down, with my legs crossed or in a warrior's pose, with my feet back. I was not able to do that. But with, the practice and understanding how and why meditation works, really begin to do it. So my birthday's coming up, and by May 14th, I'll have done 200 consecutive days meditation.
You kicked my ass.
Oh, yeah.
I had a goal of 3 months, 90 days straight or something, and I did it, and I got to 109, and I didn't set myself a new goal, and I stopped at 109.
There you go. And it's a practice, right? It's a practice that when you start out, I mean, your mind's all over the place because you've never done it. But it's about you being beyond your conscious mind. It's about quieting, how to find quiet. It's like, for me, it's how to put your body to sleep while your mind's still awake. And it's about, silencing the voice, that you're hearing, that you're focused on, and then, kind of stepping into that quiet. And from there, I mean, I know neurologically that's when you can create new realities for yourself, of things that you want to experience, how you want to feel, because I can get into this whole deep thing on, brain waves and stuff, and how that, how you get affected, basically jumping into the subconscious level. But when you're in meditation, a deep state, monks have had this practice. Buddhist monks, they can jump into the subconscious realm and be able to maneuver things to create, new realities for themselves, which is, about, shifting, right? It's I have things that I teach you in this event, but, meditation is a way to be able to rewire things for yourself. And so 200 days, I do that. And then, of course, for me, I need a exercise. And so on days that I'm short on time, I do 100 up downs in my living room.
Football.
Yep. Tumbling the feet back down, back up, jump, touch your knees, and boy, I like quick, and that's high impact, high intensity, so gets my heart rate up really good. And 100 is
100 in a row.
100 in a row. 100. I mean, I go tens to kind of break it up, but yeah, I'll stay with that consistent, and then jump into and then on days that have a little bit more period, then I do 3-4 hour miles running. Yep, and then I come back and I try to get deep work done, which is, if I know that I'm best at that point in the morning. Right after
the workout.
Yep, and so if I can get my deep work done, those main priorities that require that creativity, that innovation, that solving of problems, if I can get that done within that time period, that's good. Then I go on to spending time with my girls and creating memories.
There you go. It's kind of where I'm at with why I like my podcast in the morning. Like, let me be fresh and hammer them here in the morning when I'm ready. But yeah, you hit on a bunch of things, and almost anyone you study success, I think, the Tim Ferriss show, he talks about 80% of the people he interviews has some form of meditative practice. Everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people meditate, and they don't know that comes from that success principles, I think. Slamming water when you wake up in the morning is great for the brain. When I'm in my routine, I can literally feel my brain shifting, when I'm feeling better, getting a little bit more liquefied, whatever. When I hammer a bunch of water in the morning, and I do it consistently over time. I wake up super early, and first thing I do is I do the same thing. I pound a lot of water down. I do coffee too, and sometimes I'll do MCT oil in it and butter and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you're right on it with the morning routine. Is that your night routine too, or do you have one? Put the kids to bed?
Yeah, I usually put the kids to bed, and by the end of the day, I have no problem falling asleep.
Yeah, I go by them about.
Yeah, but for listeners out there, 2 time periods in the day when the door to your subconscious mind opens is in the morning and in the evening, because you're shifting from, in the morning, you're shifting from melatonin state chemically to a serotonin state. And within that process, it's, that's door open to subconscious mind. So, affirmations, just again, thoughts of feeling good, feeling, at peace, all those kind of good stuff. And then when you're going to sleep, you're going through the same thing, serotonin to melatonin. So, falling asleep to good stuff.
And guys, get yourself some blue light glasses. Come about 4 or 5 p.m., put your blue light glasses on. It helps that change into the melatonin.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I bought some on Amazon. I noticed a difference, and they're $15.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a little hack, one of those health hacks you can get into.
Yeah, have a nighttime routine. I mean, for me, it's just turning off everything for our family. It's reading books, and it's spending time, put on the pajamas, brushing teeth, and it's just like a night, kind of like an hour-long routine that we're slowly easing into that. Yeah.
Nice. So do you and Marissa do any Netflix or HBO shows?
Yeah. I think she just now finished watching All American. I watched like a couple episodes, maybe about half the season or something. But yeah, I noticed at one point I just had this device dependency, and my mind was addicted to stimulation.
Got to get rid of it. Yeah.
So when I was in the morning, phone first thing I check before I went to bed. Phone was it caused a lot of disruption in my life. I couldn't stay focused on one thing. My mind was all over the place, and now I removed a lot of that stuff. Have practice in place.
There you
go. And yeah, it's a lot of clarity, and it's good stuff.
So that's part of your night routine too, is turn the phone off or put on airplane mode or something, and no checking it.
Yeah.
Turning TV off,
Yeah, if you have an iPhone, remember it tells you like how much time you spend on it during a week, and mine was probably like 10 plus hours or something, and now it's like less than an hour a day.
Good for you.
Is, really good. But of course, as we get into developing content a little bit more and getting some systems, getting people involved, hopefully I don't have to jump into it, but maybe I can delegate some of that stuff to my team. But yeah.
Nice. Well, what about everyone? I always like this one is the favorite Flagstaff restaurant. The people I talk to, they're loving the Flag guys. They're like, keep asking about the restaurants. Do you guys have a favorite Flag restaurant?
If I could go all the time, I don't know how many times I could go without getting tired of it, but it's Martin's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Was it you guys who recommended it to me first?
Yeah. Sorry, buddy. We hooked you. We hooked you.
But the chilaquiles is
chilaquiles.
Yeah, that's my go-to dish, and
I've never had anything else there.
Really?
Just chilaquiles. I
tried other stuff as well,
favorite.
but yeah. So I love that, and love La Fonda as well. And I'm just a big Mexican, but there's a lot of great spots in Flagstaff, but that's where I choose if I could. Marissa's usually like, somewhere else, let's switch it up.
Yeah. Nice. Well, we could go on forever, and thank you so much for being on, and you rocked it. I'm going to push this one. Like, everyone's going to love this and going to listen to it, and awesome. I can't wait to go to the new event. So I'll check the website, and when it gets ready to come, you let me know, and I'll definitely promote it out there. But
can you say the website again?
Yeah, what is the website?
Next Wave Warrior. So Next Wave Warrior is the name of the business.
Yeah.
Nextwavewarrior.com.
Okay. And guys, you gotta share this episode. This one was game changing. This is a lot of golden nuggets in here. And for someone who needs to hear it, send them this episode and just, this is gonna be going for a long time. You're gonna go big. I know that. But I always like to end the conversation with, what are you grateful for today?
Oh man, grateful for my breath. My breath represents life.
Mm-hmm.
Life is beautiful, and that's my main gratitude every day. I teach my I believe in actions speak louder than words,
Mm-hmm.
and so almost every morning I take my 2 daughters out, and we have a practice in Hopi, which is casting your prayers in the morning. And so I take them out, and it's all about gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so awesome. My daughter, she's 3 years old. We have a ground cornmeal, but we believe that carries our prayers. And she knows the practice we've done it like so many times, and she just got it one day. She walked out, and she walked out. She said, "Thank you, Tawa. Thank you for my breath. Thank you for mom and dad. Thank you." And she's mumbling some other stuff. Thank you and thank you and thank you and Ascoli, thank you. And I was like, oh my! It just brought a big tear inside my heart to know that, wow, that's so amazing. That's what I want to raise my daughters with, is the attitude of gratitude. So yeah.
There you go, attitude of gratitude, and listen to the gut.
Yep.
Listen to the gut, guys. There's a reason that saying's out there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This one was amazing. I can't wait to do more of these. Can't wait to go to the event. Check out Michael Adams on Facebook, Next Wave Warrior.
Yep.
Make sure I got that right. And, we'll see you guys next time, but thank you. Cool, done. Woo! Hey guys, I want to keep it real with you. Thank you guys for listening to this week's podcast. If you could do us a huge favor and write us a review, it really helps out the channel. Samantha and I really, really do appreciate it. So go ahead and write us a review. Thank you so much. If you know anyone that I should be talking to, please do send them our way. We really appreciate it. See you guys for next week's episode. Until then, keep it real.